The Bible was written centuries ago for people in very different cultures from our own. It's possible to fall into the trap of misunderstanding the Bible, of taking sections out of context, of believing that it's too remote or difficult for ordinary people, of reading it simply as literature or history or geography, or even of reading it as magic or fairy stories. Yet by taking a careful approach to reading the Bible, we can understand its message, because the Bible still speaks with remarkable clarity to our own time and culture. The first question to ask when reading a Bible passage is, which section of the Bible is it? The Bible is divided into the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament is a history of the Jews and their religious thought to the time of the prophets. The New Testament describes the life and teaching of Jesus, the events following his death, and the history of the early church, and provides instructions for Christian living. If you're reading the Old Testament, you'll need to ask, what sort of writing is it? The Old Testament includes 4 types of literature: history and biography, law, poetry and wisdom, and prophecy. When reading passages of history or biography, ask yourself the following questions as you read. What happened? Where? To whom? Why was the story told? Is this a story with a point? When reading law books, keep in mind the following questions. Is this a moral law for all time? Or are they matters of social or ceremonial law? And if the latter, what point or general principle was being expressed? When reading poetry and wisdom books, remember not to read poetry as if it's prose. Expect imagery and picture language. Instead of using rhyme, Hebrew poetry often said things twice in different words. When reading prophecy, ask yourself the following questions. What was the historical setting and the story behind the passage? Is the writing poetic? Symbolic? What was the original purpose of the prophecy? If you're reading the New Testament, you'll need to know, what sort of book is it? The New Testament is divided into 4 main areas: Gospels, Acts, Letters, and Revelation. The Gospels are the 4 accounts of the teaching and events of the life of Jesus. Ask yourself, is the passage narrative or a story with a point? The book of Acts describes the expansion and persecution of the early church. Ask yourself, what happened? Was the story included to make a special point? The letters form about 1/3 of the New Testament. There are 21 letters in all. As you read the letters, bear in mind the following questions. Who was writing to whom and why? What's the main point and argument of the letter as a whole? And how does the passage fit into this? The book of Revelation was set in a time of Roman persecution against the early church. Its author used a literary style and poetic imagery called apocalyptic, of a type found in the Old Testament. One key to understanding Revelation is to read it with imagination and emotion, so as to get the universal point of its message. When reading any passage in the Bible, be it from the Old or New Testament, remember to question what the passage would have meant to the original readers or hearers, and ask yourself the following questions. How does the same message apply today? Does it add to our understanding of a particular doctrine? Does it give us a better understanding of God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit? How does it apply in our own lives, or in our church or local community? Remember, with much of the Bible, there's no problem with understanding. You simply need to read it.